Severe weather is going to continue today from Texahoma all the way through the Great Lakes, and it's going to push into Thursday as well. And over 100 million Americans are in some sort of risk zone. So if you are anywhere in the Midwest, you're going to want to pay close attention to today's forecast. Rich Gulf moisture and strong, powerful winds aloft are going to combine to create an environment capable of all modes of severe weather across large portions of the central United States today. All hazards of severe weather are on the table, including large to very large hail, strong and damaging wind gusts, and the potential for a strong tornado or two. While yesterday's event did not fully live up to the expectations, confidence is increasing that today's event, and especially Thursday's event, could bring an increased risk for severe weather. So if you're anywhere in those zones, I'm going to break down everything that you need to know for the next couple of days so that you can make informed decisions and stay weather aware. So let's jump right into the forecast. All right, so the first thing that we're going to take a look at is today's categorical outlook, which includes very large portions of the United States, all throughout the central United States, stretching from the Texahoma region all the way with a marginal risk through areas like Pennsylvania and into portions of New York, with a larger enhanced risk stretching from Kansas all the way through large portions of Wisconsin and towards the Great Lakes. So this is going to be our main area of concern for today's severe weather event. The tornado risk has a 10% region outlined near the Four Corners kind of region of Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, and Illinois. That's going to be where your most significant risk of widespread tornadoes is going to be, as well as we've got this hatched SIG 1 risk here outlined in this pink right here, where this is going to be where your largest risk for stronger tornadoes is going to be throughout the evening here Wednesday night. An isolated tornado cannot be ruled out, especially in a potential embedded within a line of thunderstorms anywhere in this green area, which poses a 2% tornado risk. Looking at our wind risk for today, we've got another very large area outline, and I'd expect anything that grows upscale and becomes a linear line of storms, basically just a big line of storms on the map. Those are going to pose your most significant threat for significant winds. However, any supercells that fire off may have some pretty strong outflow associated with them, especially in this hatched region here throughout large portions of the Midwest. Looking at our hail risk finally for today, we do have a very large portion of the United States with some sort of a hail risk as well. We're expecting large to very large hail anywhere in this hatched region right here outlined in pink, with the most significant risk for hail in the red region in the center of the map, stretching from areas like Kansas City and through Davenport and Sioux Falls, all the way up through areas of Minnesota and Wisconsin. So if you're in those areas, make sure that your vehicles are safely stored away so that you don't get your windshields shattered by large to very large hail. Looking ahead at tomorrow's severe weather event, we do have a very large area outlined for severe weather, including 2 localized regions, one on the East Coast and a level 2 out of 5 enhanced risk, encompassing areas like Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, New York, and Baltimore. And then we also have an enhanced level 3 out of 5 risk through portions of the Midwest, north of St. Louis, including Chicago and Davenport and west of Detroit. Looking at tomorrow's tornado risk, we do have a 2% region out near New York, encompassing areas like Baltimore and New York City. That is definitely going to be an area where a tornado can't be ruled out, but things aren't looking quite as incredible there. Meanwhile, in the Midwest, we do have a SIG 1 region outlined here where 20% of tornadoes that do form could be EF2 or greater. In that region, I'm most worried about the area near the Illinois and Wisconsin border, kind of near Davenport and slightly north of there near Rockford, Illinois. That's the region I'm most concerned about for the potential for stronger tornadoes on Thursday. Looking at the wind risk, there is a very widespread wind risk for large portions of the United States, including on the East Coast, and not limited there at all, as we do have the more significant region throughout large portions of the Midwest, and even stretching as far southwest as Oklahoma City and towards Amarillo and Lubbock for tomorrow. So if you're anywhere in those regions, definitely make sure you're bunkering down any loose items out on your deck, as things might get windy. And then finally, looking at the hail outlook for tomorrow, which is Thursday, again, we have this SIG 1 region outlined for large portions of the Midwest, where damaging hail, large to very large hail, could certainly be possible. So anywhere from areas like Kansas City, Davenport, Chicago, St. Louis, Sioux City, these are all going to be concerns on the map for the next couple of days in terms of hail, because both today and tomorrow are going to pose that risk. Some damaging hail cannot be ruled out towards New York as well on the East Coast, as well as throughout portions of the Ohio Valley, though the risk there is not looking quite as robust. Going into the weekend, our concern is going to shift a little bit towards the East Coast, as this low pressure system from the central United States is going to push that direction, bringing severe weather to areas like Pittsburgh, Philly, New York, and Virginia and West Virginia. That entire region is going to be encompassed by an enhanced severe weather risk on Friday. Going into Saturday, the Storm Prediction Center has issued a 15% risk region, though uncertainty is present about exactly what the hazards are going to be and exactly when they're going to be. But if you're anywhere in northern Missouri, throughout Kansas, southern Iowa, or southeastern Nebraska, this is definitely an area to keep your eye out for on Saturday. The last thing that I wanted to point out is the fire risk that is increasing in areas of the western United States, with the most significant region, which is listed as a critical fire risk, in areas like extreme northwestern Nebraska and parts of eastern Wyoming, even extreme southwestern South Dakota. So if you're in that region, you're definitely going to be wanting to look out for any type of a fire risk. If you have any flame, ideally just put it out. But if there is one out there, try to put it out quickly, as the winds are going to be pretty favorable for fires that will quickly spread throughout regions in the western part of the United States here. Getting into the conditions that are driving today's severe weather, we do have moisture surging northwards from the Gulf of Mexico. That's that rich moisture that I mentioned. As you can see, dew points, this is by 7 p.m. here, still up near 70 in areas like Davenport, Chicago, Des Moines, Columbia, and St. Louis, even into regions like Indianapolis. This moisture is going to be a large driving factor in our severe weather this evening. In terms of total cloud cover throughout the day, you can see clouds expanding through large portions of the Midwest. This is in large part due to the storm system that's going to be firing off. You can see there isn't a ton of cloud cover in that region prior to storms firing off, and that's going to allow the sun to heat the earth and give us some of that instability that we need to generate our severe storms later this afternoon and evening. Another key thing that's going to be aiding the severe weather is the influence of the mid-level jet. So essentially at 500 millibars, this is about halfway up in the atmosphere, you can see this large region where we have very fast winds aloft, and that's going to promote divergence and rising motion going on throughout large portions of the Midwest tomorrow night. And that is something that we don't typically have this time of year, this far south at least. So this is definitely going to be a huge factor in driving our severe weather for Thursday night. Looking ahead at the significant tornado parameter, again, this is an arbitrary, algorithmically driven parameter. However, it is going to give us a little bit of insight into what things are looking like tonight. This region up here north of Davenport is looking the most favorable for tornadoes, at least according to the model run from about 1 a.m. this morning. As we go into Thursday, however, you're going to see things are going to dramatically shift and become even more favorable for tornadoes. Looking at what we're going to basically have here is a cold front driven by a low pressure system, where we're also going to have a warm front here. And this is going to create a significant risk of severe weather, and especially tornadoes in areas like Davenport and Chicago, near the Wisconsin and Illinois border. So that is my biggest area of severe weather concern for the next 2 days. Definitely going to be in that region there for the potential for stronger tornadoes and widespread supercell development. Looking at the 0 to 3 kilometer storm relative helicity, which is essentially just how much spin the updrafts of these storms are able to ingest, this is going to be a large factor in driving the potential for tornadoes. As you can see, these values increasing throughout portions of the Midwest tonight. That's going to drive some of that concern for the tornado risk, especially in areas like southern Wisconsin later this evening. And as we push into Thursday, we get to Thursday evening, and man, things just really start to blow up. As you can see, lots of spin available for any storms that are able to initiate near and around the warm front that's going to be pushing northwards throughout portions of northern Illinois. And any storms that are able to interact with the warm front that's pushing northwards through portions of Illinois are going to have all sorts of resources available to them, tons of spin able to ingest to potentially produce some strong tornadoes. So that's something we need to be concerned about for Thursday night. Though there's still a little bit of uncertainty, so make sure that you're subscribed and following us on all platforms so that you can stay updated for tomorrow night's severe weather coverage as well. Taking a look at the high resolution rapid refresh model, this is just one of our better convective allowing models, which essentially is a model that just allows for storms to fire off within it. We're going to be taking a look at what it thinks is going to happen throughout much of the day today. Seeing at about 1 p.m. here, we have storms firing off in areas like Davenport, Iowa, and eventually we'll be getting a little bit more linear, pushing through areas like Wisconsin and into larger portions of the Midwest. But any of these storms behind it that are able to fire off and stay discrete around 5 p.m. and a little bit later as these begin to propagate towards their northeast, this is going to pose the most significant risk for widespread wind and widespread tornado damage throughout the evening tonight on Wednesday. As we inch forward into Wednesday night, you're going to see this cluster of thunderstorms start to push off towards the Ohio Valley, and that's going to pave the way for some more thunderstorms to develop in Iowa in the overnight hours. The significant storm risk for these ones is not going to be quite as extreme. I'm not too worried about these ones becoming super severe. However, an isolated tornado can definitely not be ruled out as well as some large hail and some damaging winds. Pushing into the morning hours onto Thursday and into the early afternoon, some more thunderstorms are going to be continuing throughout portions of the Midwest like Iowa and Wisconsin. But as we go into Thursday night, that is where our greatest risk for severe weather is going to start to initiate. You can see a line forming all the way from potentially areas like Lubbock all the way through Wisconsin. This line is going to bring the risk for embedded QLCS tornadoes. So essentially tornadoes embedded within a line of thunderstorms. Those tornadoes would probably not be quite as powerful, but they can still deal some significant damage. But the main threat here is definitely going to be wind pushing through this squall line as it pushes through areas of the Midwest and towards the Ohio Valley throughout later portions of the evening on Thursday. Any storms that are able to fire off here near the triple point, which is again essentially this region right here that I've circled around a low pressure, where you have a warm front and a cold front kind of combining and butting heads with one another. Storms that are able to fire off in this region and stay discrete are going to pose the risk for those stronger tornadoes tomorrow night. So we're going to have chasers out in that area tomorrow, and we're going to be covering it live for you here on WillBrattonWx so that you know what's coming. But yeah, you can see these storms beginning to push off through the Great Lakes throughout the later evening hours on Thursday and into around 1 a.m. on Friday. That's as late as the 6Z Her run will take us, as this line of thunderstorms begins to push off towards the east and southeast and is going to begin to dissipate and weaken without the influence of the sun anymore, with some of that instability starting to work out of our atmosphere and get used up. Again, throughout large portions of the Midwest, we could see some significant severe weather Wednesday night, that's tonight, and Thursday night, tomorrow night. So definitely something that we need to stay very vigilant about if you're in those regions. One final note is that we are going to have the support of the jet stream pushing through areas like the Midwest and eventually into the East Coast, and that's going to help drive our severe weather for the next couple of days. So that's definitely one more thing that we do want to keep a close eye on. That's going to bring us to the end of today's forecast. But make sure that you're following us and have notifications turned on all platforms so that you know when we go live, because we will be going live both tonight and tomorrow night with storm chasers in the field covering today and Thursday's severe weather outbreaks. So again, make sure you're following Will Bratton WX on all social platforms. Thank you for choosing us as your source of trusted, reliable, degreed severe weather information and coverage. And we will see you tonight and in tomorrow's forecast.